So I'm back. I'm back in my magic little corner of the world. Friends and viewers, colleagues, family, and what have you, YouTubers, welcome back to another little one of what is gonna be a bonus video again. And it is a bonus video because I am still waiting for a bit of inventory, if you will. So I have a bunch of pieces in transit right now. So they are sitting right at the border, waiting to enter our wonderful Slovakia and get sent to yours sincerely. And there are some incredible pieces that are going to arrive very, very soon, and I am excited. There is the Whitening coming. There's a D1 coming as well, which is, I'm very curious about that one. I'm gonna be very interested in seeing that one. And there is a Baume and Mercier coming as well, which is gonna be very interesting to see those pieces. So while we wait, and while I start to prepare some more material for some of the other pieces that I have, and the list starts to be quite long with other things that I have lined up. You might have seen that we are starting to do some additional changes and improvements to our channel. As I've said many times, it's work in progress, and of course, if you are a professional YouTuber slash designer slash whatever have you, then you would of course notice that we haven't reached the peak of everything. And by the way, if you've noticed the lights just changing, it's my blitz that actually is out of energy right now. It's very dark outside, so I hope that the light quality is okay. But this time, oh, and by the way, I am rocking the, as you can see, bam, I am rocking the Mido Ocean Star. If you haven't watched the review already that I did on that one, take a look at it. You can find it on our channel. It's really, really worth a watch. And again, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and what have you. Every little thing that you do helps in the bigger picture. So I appreciate that as well. Now, this time around, what we're gonna look at is just a sip of Coke before we get started. What we're gonna look at this time around is some of the things that you absolutely, let me start differently. As I've mentioned, or as when you're looking at this video, so you buy this amazing piece, right? You buy this incredible piece and you're excited about that. You are, you know, all of these emotions are coming up. This is the first real great piece that you're buying, right? And it's gorgeous. It's just you, right? It's absolutely amazing. Now, there's a certain list of things that you really, really do not want to do with that almost love of your life piece that you have, right? Because every first original piece that you get, right? The first original piece that you get when you start to make your collection has this, it has this really, really historical value for you. So you want to make sure that you take good care of that. Not to mention that the other pieces, of course, is equally relevant and all of these things. There is something incredible about like these first pieces that you get into your collection once you've decided that you want to build your collection, right? So they'll have this really, really strong value for you. So of course, there are things that you really, really have to be careful with that you don't do to your, not only this piece, the first one, but all of your pieces in your collection. That's what we're going to look at this time around in this little bonus video. And this time it is the top 8 of the things you should not do with your timepiece. Okay, top 8. It is not in any specific order. So it is not that one is more important than 8. It is just look at all of these 8 and be careful with it. Let's get right into it. Number 1. Unless you are an astronaut or a professional diver, do not wear your piece on top of your clothes. I have seen it numerous times. Just don't do that. There is a couple of things that besides the fact that it looks tremendously awkward, there's a couple of things that you have to be careful with, and that is that you actually put extra pressure on your either your bezel or your strap, okay? So your piece, your watch is not meant, unless, of course, as I said, if you are a diver or an astronaut, hey, go for it, wear it outside. It's not meant for you to have it being worn upon one piece of clothing or not a piece of clothing. So don't wear that. Remember, again, these small little things here, these small little clips that actually keeps the strap in place, they're not made out of incredibly indestructible material that like will last, you know, a nuclear launch or something like that. That's mechanics, that's technology, that's techniques, that's finesse, right? And putting unnecessary stress on those small little hinges is really, really not a smart idea. So, number one, don't wear watch on top of your clothes. It just, no, right? So, let me get my pen, mark it off. Number two. And I call it being mechanically unsympathetic, okay? And one of the things I mean with that is, so you buy a piece and it's got moving parts, right? You put it to your ear, you can hear it's got moving parts, it's got ticking parts, right? And one of the things that you have to respect with your timepiece, with your watch, is you have to treat it gentle, right? You can say, yeah, well, it's made out of this material or that material. Yeah, but that's the outer side of it, right? It doesn't mean that you should bump it into things or you should like shake it wildly because it's a self-winder, Martin. You have to shake it. There's a difference between moving it and shaking it crazy wild, okay? So mechanically, you have moving parts that are absolutely tiny, tiny bits and pieces that all work together in this incredibly symphony of magic that makes you tell the time, the date, multiple time zones as well, if that's your thing, the chronographs and what have you. All of that works together because of this incredible mechanical symphony that's put together, okay? And you decide to rumble it around like a bulldozer in a hen house, right? It's just, I mean, it's incredible. Like, you have to have this incredible level of sympathy for that orchestra. You have to take good care of it. You have to be incredibly gentle with how you wear your watch, and not only that, but your movement, right? Like there's this. I don't have a watch on this one, but there are people like, yeah, it's a self-winding mechanism. Like seriously, calm down just a bit. It will. Like, if you just wiggle it like this, it will wind as well, right? If you move it like you move your hand normally, not like this incredibly exaggerated articulation, it will wind as well. Don't worry about it, man. Just calm down. Respect the moving parts. I mean, honestly, respect the symphony. Number two, show sympathy for the mechanics of the watch. Number three. No, I've tried this myself and it's incredible. I honestly, I don't know how I caught that one, but this has something to do with the proper storage of your piece, right? Or improper storage. You have to be very, very careful with how you actually store your pieces. Now, you can say, yeah, but it doesn't matter really. No, again, it does, because you have to look at the mechanics of it. You have to look at the metals of it. And what I mean with storage is storage has to have a temperature that's very stable, okay? It might sound a bit crazy because, like, after all, we're not talking about wine, Martin. We're not talking about like something in the refrigerator. No, but in certain cases, and as I'll give you my example with it, is if you move a watch from one temperature, hot, for example, to cold, what can happen is that the parts, because they're mechanical, they can have extra tear on the lubricants that's on the mechanic or on the metal, And that actually is something that can damage it and jam it in the future. There's another thing as well you have to be careful of. Extreme differences in temperature, and this is where my own case comes in, case and point, right? Is I was sitting inside during winter, very, very cold winter. I was wearing a watch, not this one, another one. And I went outside not noticing that it was like -20 or something like that. I knew it was cold. I didn't know that it was -20 because maybe I would have dressed differently. But whatever. I go from like plus 25 degrees inside to -20 outside, -20 plus, right? -20, -22 degrees. There's like a degree difference of like 40 degrees. And what happened was, because this timepiece was not the best of qualities maybe, it actually started condensing inside the glass. Now, that is a warning signal for a couple of things. It's a warning signal that there's something that is not isolated proper, and you should be careful with that. But it's also a warning signal that the metal is working, right? And I'm not a physicist. I didn't study metals or all of these things. So I actually took the time to ask somebody that spends a lot of time working with metals outside, okay? Like building, construction, and all of these different things. I know it's not the same thing as a watch, but bear with me, the principle applies the same. His point of view was, depending on what kind of metal it was, or what kind of metal it is, the only change of quote unquote, the only change of difference you need to have before you have contraction or expansion is plus or minus 20 degrees of difference. So say that you are at 10 degree or 20 degree, let's say 20 degree inside, nice air condition during the summer, you go outside and it's 40 degrees. That's a 20 degree difference. And with that, you will have contraction versus expansion of the mechanical parts. It's not that it's going to blow out of the watch or anything like that. That's not what I mean. But it will have these micro expansion and contractions that can actually move some of the pins. So you have to be really, really careful with how you're storing it, not too cold, not too hot, and not moving it from one extreme to the other extreme. Once that starts to happen, oh my God, next up is corrosion. Next up is you need to replace the lubricants on all of the moving parts, and it's gonna cost you an arm and a leg, unless it's a collector's items that you have. In these cases where it starts to be that problem, you might consider actually getting a completely brand new piece, because in worst case scenarios, it's gonna cost more to repair than it is actually buying a brand new one. Of course, depending on the actual value of the piece. If we're talking about a $10,000 watch, then I'm sure that you could get away with repairing or replacing some of the pieces. But if you're talking about like a $400 watch or 300 or 200, and you're having to pay like half of that for yeah, well, you do the math yourself. So extreme hot, extreme cold can really wear and tear on the lubricants, on the pieces, the moving pieces, the mechanics in the watch, because of the expansion and the contractions of the metals, right? So be careful with that. That is number 3. Number 4, again, your watch is this, as I said, it's like a symphony of magic, right? It's moving parts, it's microscopic precision, right? And there's a reason why. I mean, this is craftsmanship. This is really, really hardcore precision work when you have all of the moving parts, everything just plays as it's supposed to. And here it comes. Number 4 is, this is the mistake. I'm sure you've seen it, is unscrew the crown, pull it out, and start to set your watch on your wrist. Don't do that. Don't do that, because here's what can happen. Actually, I had a friend that did that. When you unscrew on your wrist, there is a probability that you're going to move the watch, and then you're going to move your hands, okay? So while you unscrew it, you move it out, and you start to play around it. What actually can happen is, when you want to screw it back in, depending on if you can move it out 1 click, 2 clicks, or 3 clicks, is the minute you start to screw it back in, and you just yank to screw, is you can actually screw it in the wrong, not the wrong direction, but the wrong position. Now, what that does then is that it basically means that the whole way in where your crown gets screwed in absolutely gets messed up, right? And so that there is one thing. The second thing that can happen is you can actually cause a lot of stress on the movements as well. So while it's easy, pop on your watch and then set it, screw it, and then be done with it, you can actually damage your timepiece by either misplacing or mismoving the crown and the screwing, or you can actually damage it because of too much stress of the mechanics, okay? So that is something to be careful with. So, and that there, by the way, is also when you have a crown or if you have a chronograph. One thing people, they like, it's weird, it's very, very strange, I've seen it, is that people, they kind of like, they read the manual and it says it's waterproof or water resistant, and then they start to click the different buttons, or they unscrew and screw underwater. Now, that's not very smart to do because it's not meant to be pushed underwater. It's sealed when it's underwater. When you push it, it's still sealed, but you're putting stress and pressure on the mechanisms, right? So winding on your wrist, pushing anything underwater, don't do that, right? Simply don't do that. You again, it goes back to being gentle. Why would you need to put more stress on your piece and more pressure on the mechanics because you want to prove a point? It makes no sense. Martin, I paid $1,000 for this watch. It should handle it. Yeah, and I'm sure that it can, but why do you need to do it? That I don't understand. So simply stop doing it. It's not worth it because at one point it's not going to work, right? And that's one of the things where when you see where watches goes wrong, it's not that it does not work, the mechanics. It's somebody messed something up, and it's incredibly small things that you need to mess up before the whole thing stops. Small things can be easily fixed. They can also be incredibly difficult to fix. So winding your watch on your wrist, starting to push, unwind, and doing all of these things underwater, don't do that. That was number 4. Now, number 5, it's again, I am not applied science or physician or having studied material or anything like that, but there is a thing that you have to be careful with as well. Now, there is mechanics in your piece, okay? Unless, of course, everything is made out of plastic. In that case, you wouldn't be watching that video. Sorry, but let's say that you have moving parts. Let's talk about a piece that is mechanical movements. Okay, now what you don't want to do is you do not want to place it close to anything that is of magnetic fields. Wait, what? Okay, hold on. Now, if you have a radio, a good old radio, like a stationary radio, that is something that has magnetic fields. If you have a computer, notebook, telephone, or the likes, microwave, like all of these appliances, they have they have a magnetic field. It's not like Magneto from X-Men, lift things and bang, you will be like, no, it's not like that. It is the fact that magnetic fields can impact, again, your movements, okay? And so there's a whole science in terms of how you measure magnetic impact or impulses on your timepiece, and there's a scale made for that. Now, I'm not an expert in this scale, but what I do know is I don't want to test my faith, so I rather not do it. Meaning, I don't place my watch or my timepiece right next to my telephone, on top of my notebook, or what have you. I put it nice and neat back in my storage case or in my watch collection box. Okay, so magnetic field literally is one of those that can go and mess it up really, really bad. So magnetic fields is number 5. Number 6 is kind of like a no-brainer, right? It's such a no-brainer that however it happens. Number 6, boop, don't drop your watch. Simply don't drop it. I like it hurts me, and I've seen it a couple of times. It hurts me when people are not displaying enough emotions and gentle kindness and sympathy for their piece. But it breaks my heart when I see people that are wrestling with their watches, not paying attention, and all of a sudden it just goes bang on the ground. Now, what you won't have that you will scatter the glass, right? The screen is not going to be shattered. It might be scratched. It might be all of these things. Unless, of course, you like drop it off a building, and then in that case, maybe you should get your head checked. That's a different story. But it won't necessarily destroy anything, necessarily. However, let me draw a parallel. Let's say that you have a mobile phone. Let's just take for the simplicity the one that I use. I have an iPhone. Now, just because I drop my iPhone doesn't mean it will stop. It doesn't mean that it will break. But if I drop it and it lands on the wrong way, not necessarily flat down on the back, but on a corner or something like that, it can impact machinery, right? That's the reason why we have all of this shock absorption and what have you in telephones, MacBooks, computers in general, not computers, notebooks, laptops, what have you. Like, imagine you drop a computer, then you should again get your head checked. But the minute you drop your piece, there is again a probability that the minor components can be moved just tiny wee bit out of place. That happens, it can cause the whole thing to slow down, to shut, jam, what have you, right? Again, when you take off your piece, make sure that you take it off in a way where you don't drop it. How I normally do it is I put my watch on my leg and take it with one hand. That means that I have control of it when I take it, or I just put my hand on the table with my piece and then I unbuckle it. I don't flare around with it and hope that I'll catch it with one hand while I'm preoccupied playing with my son or something else, cooking, what have you. I don't do that because I respect my pieces. They're in my collection, and I don't want to drop them because I'm a clown. So don't drop your piece because you can do tremendous amount of damage again. And again, remember, you need one small, tiny little pin to go out of place and you're done, okay? So don't drop it. That there was number 6. Number 7. This one is very, very interesting. This one is one that many people are not familiar with. And it becomes very, very interesting because it actually has a real, this should be written on, like, not put your watch in the microwave or in the laundry machine. Don't do this as well. It's up there with the seriousness of how bad you can actually destroy your piece. I did not know it until I was fortunate enough to talk to somebody that has been collecting watches for like 250 years. Now, I'm joking. He's been collecting watches his whole life. And we're talking about do's and don'ts and all of these different things. And he was like, hey, by the way, do you know this? And I'm like, no. Like, explain that to me. Now, here's the thing. When you set your watch, okay, let's say that it's a self-wind. And let's say that you've unscrewed it, you leave it. It runs out of power, right? There's no mojo in it. There's no energy in it. And you put it on and you can see, well, the time is wrong. Need to set the time and calendar, okay? Now, one thing you should not do is you should not set the date up to 3 hours before midnight. So, what does that mean? Imagine you are 5 minutes to midnight. And just an example, it's a theoretical example, just so I can explain it to you. 5 to midnight. And you're like, well, the date, well, hang on just a second. That's not today's date. Let me just change the date. Don't do that. Because here is where mechanics is at a disadvantage slightly with that. There is something that's called a pin stick. And the pin stick is one of the things that move the date wheel, okay? And then there is something that is called a date disc. So you have the date wheel and a date disc. Those are moving parts, okay? Now, they move into a location where if you at that time start to change the date, they will jam. Or there's a high probability that they can jam. Because now when you're moving the date wheel and the date disc and the pin sticks, all of that is lining up to automatically wait and then go, and then it's changing to the date after, right? So if today is, just an example, today is the 3rd, it lines up and it's ready to go 4th, right? It doesn't gradually show that we're moving. It does it like click, right? That's one of the things that you will notice if you have date on your watch at whatever location. Mine on Mido is at 3 o'clock. But the date will then go from one date to the other date, and it will go like a move. And that's the date disc, the date wheel, and the pin stick that are all moving together there. Now, once you unscrew your crown and want to set the time, you are manipulating that movement, and that movement there can then all of a sudden cause the whole piece to go, hang on just a second, what's happening? He's what? Like now what? What? Like no, we are just about to change day. Don't change the time. Wait, man, wait. No, he's doing it anyway. Okay, we'll jam it. And if you jam it, it's unnecessary cost for you to go and repair it. Because obviously, if something is jammed, it needs to be unjammed. And again, you don't want to have anybody look at your piece. You want to have the people look at your piece. So if you do it with Mido, send it back to the repairman, right? Send it back to the shop. Say, listen, I messed up. Please fix it, right? Because that there goes with, if you mess it up like that and you set into somebody that is an expert in changing batteries but has no idea how mechanics are working, chances are he will screw it or can screw it up even further. Now, I'm not dishing anybody that is an expert in changing batteries in watches. That's not my point. My point of it is there is a reason why people, they specialize in mechanics versus battery-driven watches, why they focus in iWatches and not, like, they are all different. It's different skills and it's different experiences and capabilities that you have. And so you want to make sure that you then put it to somebody that actually have the capabilities and the competences to do that. Now, it's just such a silly mistake to make, and it's one that absolutely can be avoided, right? 3 hours till midnight. Don't start to adjust the day. Don't start to adjust the time. Don't do anything. You have literally 21 hours a day where you could do it. Don't do it in that period of time. It can mess up your watch. Will it? Is it guaranteed 100% out of 100% that it will? No. But why would you risk it? Simply don't do it. Don't do it. Don't take the chance, because if it does, Murphy's Law is whatever can go wrong will go wrong. And at one point you're like, whatever, it's never going to happen. It will happen. And you're going to be ending up having a service cost that you need to put on top of that watch. And all of a sudden, service cost plus purchase price means that's the cost of your whole watch, right? And so you all of a sudden need to make sure that you've bought the right piece that eventually will go up more than the service cost on top of your cost for buying the watch, right? And so that's just money out the window, in my opinion, on something so basic, so simple that you can avoid. That was point number 7. Point number 8. Don't sleep with your watch. It's just, no, don't. What does a watch, a mechanic watch, what does it do for you during the night? Just don't. It's just, it blows my mind why you would have to be able to look at the clock, the time, or your just, it's so gorgeous. Wow, it's amazing. Why would you do that? There are so many things that can go wrong during the night with your piece. Okay? So many things. You sleep. You have no control over your arms or legs. You literally don't. There is no way you can guarantee you're not gonna hit it with something. I don't know if you have a husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever you have, and then you bang them on top of their head with your watch. That's not good. That's almost the same as dropping it. Why would you want to do that? There is the pressure, there is the stress that you can put on it. Besides the fact that the only thing you should be wearing when you go to sleep is either your boxer shorts, if you are a man, or pajamas, right? Like, why would you wear a watch? It literally, I cannot get, that is the same thing as somebody that puts their watch on top of a casual shirt. Why? It makes no sense in my mind. It just is, it's a mind mystery. What are people thinking? They're like, in case I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, I want to know. Well, then buy an alarm clock. That's what they're for. Yeah, but I'm not supposed to have my mobile phone in my bedroom because I'm feng shui. Well, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a normal stationary time alarm. Buy that instead. Don't wear your watch. It's just, no. And further to that, when you shower, why are you wearing your watch? Yeah, it's easier to shower with my watch than without my watch. Yeah, well, it's also easier to shower with your socks on, but you just don't do that, do you? Like, literally, these are things that can impact your watch in a really bad way, and people are just like, they seem to not worry about these different things. Why? It's beyond me. I have so many of my friends that are complaining about the fact that leather, the strap leather, is starting to deteriorate. And I go, are you wearing your watch when you shower? And they go like, yes, of course. Yeah, but maybe then don't wear it during, like, are you, like, my leather jacket, I'll wear that as well in the bath and then shower and gel it up and all of these things. I'm sure it's going to be fine. Right? I mean, like, those are things that just, it's mind-blowing what people they do of stupidity simply because they are not paying attention to it, right? So sleep with your watch and bath or shower with your watch. Go to the swimming pool with a watch that is not a diver's watch. Makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. Don't do it. So, point number 8. Bang. Don't sleep with your watch. Don't shower with your watch. Just take it off, leave it, and when you're done sleeping or showering, put it back on. Easy. It's not complicated, right? So, let me just go through the list really, really fast again. Do not wear your watch on top of clothing. Don't. Just don't. Don't even consider it. Don't. Unless you're an astronaut or a diver. Besides that, nobody should wear a watch on top of their clothes. Simply don't wear it. Be very, very mechanical sympathetic, right? Really, really be careful how you treat your watch. Be gentle, be polite, be nice. It sounds strange, but as I said, imagine your watch is this, it's this amazing symphony of just goodness happening, magic created. You should treat it with respect. You should be gentle and not be too aggressive on it. Storage. Do not expose your timepiece, your watch, to extreme temperature conditions, either up or down, right? Plus 20 degrees, minus 20 degrees, up or down. 40 degrees down to 20, 20 up to 40, something like that. 0 degrees up to 20, 0 degrees down to minus 20. Don't do that. It can corrode, it can damage the lubricants, and it can actually condense inside. Don't do that. It's going to be a nightmare to get that clean. Winding your wrist, your watch on your wrist. Don't do that. It can cause stress. It can actually make the crown get out of place. And with that, we also talked about don't start to actually unwind, wind, push anything when it's a chronograph underwater. The only thing you should be pushing underwater is your limit to how long you can keep your breath. That's the only thing. You don't push any of that. Just leave it alone. Unless it is a 100% defined diver's watch. But then it's a different category. Then it's a diver's watch, not a chronograph. And you shouldn't be pushing anything underwater, winding, unwinding. Don't put stress and pressure on something where you don't need to do that, just to prove your point. Magnetic fields, not like wearing a silver or foil hat. That's not what I mean. Oh my God, like they can, like no. There are magnetic fields coming off radios, computers, telephones, MacBooks, what have you, and you don't want to continuously expose them for that because it can have an impact on the movements, the mechanics again. So that is something that is a big no-no as well. Drop it. We talked about that. Don't drop it. Be careful once you mount and unmount, right? Once you put it on, once you pull it off, once you go to sleep, make sure that you don't do any wild stuff there. Now, if you are drunk, that's a different story. Good luck with that, buddy. Maybe you do actually want to sleep with your watch. But whatever. Don't drop it, right? Be careful with it. And aggressive movements, we talked about that as well. Don't, just because it's self-wind, don't start to have these aggressive movements. Don't set the date 3 hours before midnight simply because there was the issue with the pin stick, the date wheel, and the date disc that can actually jam because of the movement is ready to do my famous. That's my famous one. It can actually damage that as well. Not damage it like, oh my God, it's not working, but rather jam it. And then you need to get an expert to actually open everything up and say, did you do that? Did you not watch Martin say you shouldn't do that? But you did it anyways. Listen to Martin's words of wisdom. Don't do that. 3 hours, that's a rule. And again, we've got 21 hours. Besides that, we can actually set the date whenever, right? So be careful with that. And then last but not least, don't sleep with your timepiece and don't bath with it. Don't shower with it, right? That's just, I mean, that's not what we do, right? Gentlemen don't wear his timepiece to bed. He politely takes it off, puts it in his storage compartment, right? Closes it, goes to sleep. In the morning, open it and might want to pick not the same one, maybe a different one. Right? That's also the reason why you want to do it, because in the morning, what do I feel like? Do I feel like Ocean Star? Do I feel like Cold? Or do I feel like IWC? Or what do I feel like? I feel like this one, right? So you get to choose that. That's a great one as well. That's a great incentive to make sure that you park it for the night. And then again, shower, right? A no-brainer. Now, bonus 9 is it's not a bonus, but it is that the whole aspect of being aggressive, being like really like too when it's a self-wind. Yeah, but Martin, it's a self-wind. Yes, still take control, be gentle, right? So with that, those are my top 8 points of things you want to avoid doing with your timepiece. And if you do those things, take care of your timepiece. It is literally gonna last you a lifetime. And that really is what we want. A timepiece that is gonna be limitless. A timepiece that is gonna be infinitive. That there is one of the reasons why people like myself, we are so passionate about watches. With that, don't forget to click like. Don't forget to click subscribe. Don't forget to write a comment if you have the time, the need, and urge for that. If not, continue to drop me a line on Facebook, as some of you are doing. I appreciate that as well. Having said that, this is it for me. Next time, I most probably will be back with another review, and we'll see what is on the list. Something exciting for sure. That's it for me this time around. Take care and see you around.